All right, guys, we are live. This is Beard of Darkness Book Reviews, and I have a wonderful indie author with me today. Very honored that he stopped by to spend some time with me today, Mr. Z.S. Diamanti. Diamanti.
Diamanti, yes.
Get it right,
Yes,
people. Get it
Diamanti.
right.
That's right. Say it as Italian as you can say it. Just
Mm,
Diamanti, even with the hand gestures and everything.
you have to.
You gotta do the hand gestures.
So you've done publishing for some magazine. You've been published in magazines, some
Yeah,
literary journals,
yeah,
newspapers, books. You went to
yeah.
college for what'd you go to college for?
I went to college forever. How about that? No, I
Yeah.
went to college forever. I'm a veteran, so I was in the Air Force before, and so while I was in the Air Force, I got my associate's degree
So
in
smart.
medical administration management, and then I got my bachelor's degree in religion, and then I went on for my master's degree in leadership, and then I did a postgraduate certificate program for creative writing.
Okay.
So I
So
went to
you were
school
busy.
forever. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I love it, man. I always want to shout from the rooftops, not only about what you're doing as a writer, but you're a Air Force veteran. You were in Operation Enduring Freedom.
That's
Thank you
right,
for your
man.
service.
Yeah, hey, it was an honor to serve, right? So
Awesome. That's wonderful. I look up to that so much. I've got a lot of family members in the military, and
yeah,
that's a very high honor. When I look at somebody and know that, that's really cool, man.
yeah,
So you did ministry, and you were in ministry for over 10 years,
yeah.
and you and your wife are in Colorado. How is it over there? How's the
Colorado, man.
weather?
It's been nice actually. It got a little warm during the day today, but it's starting to get into that nice fall here in Colorado.
Awesome.
It's mostly like most of the time the weather is like very even keel. Doesn't really matter what season you're in. It's pretty chill. I mean, we go for hikes in like January and stuff still, and it's like
Wow.
it's fine. So, I mean, obviously we get winter like it hits pretty hard sometimes. Like this last winter stunk, but most of the time it's pretty chill.
Okay. Well, yeah. I in my head, I've never been to Colorado. I was born in California, so
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
don't remember it. Like I moved to Ohio. That's where I'm at now.
yeah.
Long. Well, I don't remember California, but Edwards Air Force Base. That's my. So when I
Ooh,
write my birth date,
oh, yeah,
it's like Edwards Air Force Base, California. It's like 3 sentences long. It feels like.
yeah, yeah.
um,
We had a couple of children while we were still at Travis Air Force Base in California. So yeah,
so you know where I'm
we
talking
get the
about.
drill.
That's awesome, man. So you've got a story. That's cool. What's the name of your recently dropped book, and maybe a little bit about it, the blurb, if you will.
Yeah, man. So I just released Stone and Sky, which looks like this. It's so beautiful, and obviously, like all this and that, which is so cool.
It's
And
beautiful.
it really is. I spent a lot of time working on it and making sure that it was going to be pretty because I like to make things pretty.
Sure.
It's this thing that I have, and I do it, and I go until it's pretty.
We
So.
all judge books by their cover, bro, don't
That's
we?
true. It's true facts, man. So, but yeah, it's Stone and Sky, and it's all about a lone guardian, a Griffin guardian,
Mm.
who's the last surviving guardian of his squadron, and everybody else dies. And he ends up teaming up with a local huntsman's family, and they go on this crazy adventure trying to get him back to his hometown to and they end up finding out that there are way more dangers than they even knew about. So it's a pretty cool, very fun, all magic and swords and sorcery and griffin riders and wyvern riding orcs and dwarves that ride these things called garvox, which are basically magical panthers with wings.
Ooh,
So it's really fun. We
it
have a
sounds
lot of
really
fun.
fun. Oh, it sounds like an adventure. Am I right? I haven't read
Yeah,
it, and it's on my TBR.
yeah,
I do want to point out too, because people will watch this in the future and will watch it now, but people should know Andy Peliquin himself said
yes,
that is a fire cover.
Yeah.
So can
Which
we
is
name?
huge props, which is huge props because his covers are fire. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So that
Yeah.
was cool. I was so happy when he said that for you.
Yeah, it's so cool. And the painting, so the painting that you see on the cover, it's full wrap. She did a wonderful job. It's done by a painter called Katerina Strokac, and she's from Switzerland, and she's this beautiful painter. And I got her to do all the paintings for the whole trilogy, actually, including the Preludes collection, which is it's so stunning and beautiful. But I had her do all of the books. She did all the painting, and then I actually did all the graphic art on it, all the the typeface and everything else around, because I have a background in graphic design as well.
Of course you do.
Yeah. In fairness, it helps to pay bills to do graphic design. And
my wife does it by day, so
that's
I get
right.
it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
and
what she does.
I get to color comic books too, which is like the
Oh,
best.
that
is
sounds
like
really fun.
The best.
So are you a comic book guy?
Oh, of course, of course.
Okay.
You should see a whole bunch here, and there's a bunch behind me, and some more going that way.
Wonderful.
Love graphic novels.
Yeah. And guys, if you haven't seen his TikTok, that's where I found him, and I'm never on TikTok. So for me to just discover somebody just just playing around for a second, because my wife's on there. That's how she promotes.
Yeah.
And I just seen you. I said that's an indie author. He's got a book coming out. Let's put him on the interview schedule, and I'm loving it. I can't wait to read it. I knew we'd get along. We're both talkative people. I could say this guy does not have an issue with being a people person.
Yeah, we like to smile. It's going to be easy. We're going to have fun.
So Matt from Go Read Books stopping by, say watching y'all talk books, and LSU play football. What a night! Look, we're competing with football. So
that's a good night right there.
Right. Thank you, Matt, for stopping. He's a wonderful booktuber. Me and him are really good friends. So you should check him out if you haven't.
Matt and I are connected. I think we're connected on both TikTok, Book Talk, and Bookstagram now. So that's
of course you are. Matt has his feelers everywhere.
Yeah,
that's awesome. No, that's actually, I'm telling you, my last two episodes, my last two interviews include. So this one and my prior. He is the reason. I just remembered. He sent me a link to you. That is how I discovered you. Was him?
Yeah. Oh, so it was through Matt.
Through Matt.
Okay. Well, there you go.
See, he knows that I do interviews, and I trust him. So he tags me in an interview or an author. I just naturally have to say, okay, I trust this. I have to ask them for an interview.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm so glad that I did. So cover art is by. Will you say her name again? She's from Switzerland.
Yeah. It's Katerina Strokac, and she is just awesome, dude. She's so wonderful to work with, and she's been a joy to work with. And honestly, we've had discussions about future books that I haven't revealed to anyone else yet, but we're already discussing how we get to work together some more in the future. So no, she's great.
Awesome. How's that look?
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, wonderful. I had the name wrong, guys. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right.
I saw it. I was like, oh, I should throw that in there.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, that's the reason I'm here is for you, man. I love what you're doing. I like your attitude. I love that you were in ministry. Matthew's in ministry, by the way. Sorry for calling me Matthew. Yeah. That's my name. So I just feel like I have the card to call somebody with the name.
You're allowed to call. It's only Zachary's get to call me Zachary, right? It's like a thing.
It is. It's like
a rite of passage.
Exactly. You're right. I love connecting any authors to this community. Gosh, she's so right. And I asked you earlier if you're on Twitter, and I was already following you, of course. Yeah. I always like to tell, I was just recently talking to a buddy of mine who's an indie author, and he's on Twitter, but he doesn't use it very often. I said, man, that is such a great marketing tool for you. The community is so supportive. What do you think about the community?
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm the same way. So I really hit TikTok. I've grown that from February to just the other day we hit 30,000, which is just phenomenal.
I saw that. That is crazy.
Just so cool, right? And amazing, like people coming around and like really excited about fun fantasy and like new bookish people and content,
Yeah.
which is great. I really have been growing a little bit on Instagram recently because I've actually started focusing on it a little more, because I noticed that I can get a little more intimate, I guess. Like there's more connection there on Instagram. Yeah. More people will see your posts regularly and interact with you, which is great, right?
It is.
But Twitter has been one that I just have never quite figured out how to really start growing in the community with people.
I've got you, dog.
For me, it's like, dude, it's been a waste of time in the past. So it's like, well, I don't know. I just kind of leave it there.
So, I talked to quite a few indie authors, and I'm part of a FanFi Addicts now. So when I do read the book very soon, I will put that review on FanFi Addicts. And another thing is we've got like a Twitter thread. So I've already kind of posted this on there. So I will put your name in the loop, and we'll get you in there, man.
Yeah. I had considered, I never even changed my name on Twitter.
Well, I was actually going to say
my actual author name, because it just didn't feel worth it. So
well, that's why it was hard for me to find you.
I'll totally change my name to the proper name now. So
I think that would help a lot, because originally I had looked and it was harder. So if you ever change that up, let me know. Either way, though, man, it's going to be in there. But Caden Love says tips for TikTok as an indie author. He's also an indie author, in which I haven't read I don't know if it's out yet. Let me know, Caden. But I'm excited to read his work too.
Yeah, tips. So for tips for TikTok, one of the things you're going to want to make sure you do, and I don't know if your book is out. I started doing TikTok before my book came out, back in February, and my book came out here not even a month ago, right? So I started building all of that prior. I actually really didn't talk a whole lot about my book up until like the month and a half before my book came out.
Wow.
So what you want to do is you really want to start building a community of people who like your genre of book, right? So really play into the genre. Stone and Sky, it's an epic fantasy adventure, right? Which sets it up as something different than maybe your grim dark fantasy or your romantasy or your it has cozy elements, but it's not quite cozy fantasy, right? So like really niche in that genre for yourself and share about books in that genre that you love. And you'll start building a community of people who love that kind of book, and boom, you're ready to go when it's time to launch, right?
Sound advice. Look at the marketing skills that this indie author has. And look, when's your book come out? Just like a month ago, right? 2?
Yeah, not even a month ago. So we're the 29th of August. So it's been 24 days or something like that.
Yeah. So that's awesome, dude. And it sounds like you've got a marketing mindset that's very important as an indie author. You've got a very sound illustrator. You've got some graphic skills yourself. You came equipped.
Right. Yes. So the fact of the matter is that Stone and Sky was almost done, almost published ready. It had one more edit to go through at the time in December. Okay. So December of this past year, Stone and Sky was almost published ready, just needed one more edit run through. And I didn't publish it until August 29th. Why? And let me assure you, that was painful, by the way.
Sure.
That was very painful. Because, man, you are working so hard for months and months and months, and you're like, I don't even have this book out. Like, nobody can even read this thing. Like, I'm working doing all this work, and I'm not even sure if people are going to like this book. And I'm like, you're going through all sorts of stuff, right? But the whole time I was building foundation, right? Building an author website, starting up a readers list, starting to build a community on TikTok, starting to find people to gather around this book before it came out. I also had time to put together 7 prelude stories about characters that show up in the book that I got to give away.
Free fantasy?
Yeah, so I'm at freefantasyfiction.com, right? That's where you could get those 7 free stories. But I gave those stories away, and they're all stories about characters that show up in Stone and Sky.
That's a
And
really
so,
cool idea.
yeah, it's just this wonderful way for people to start getting into the world and getting to know different characters before they come into the book.
And
I've
your
had,
writing style.
yeah, right, and your writing style. And so you're actually getting people to kind of feel you out, vibe you out before the book comes out. And then you'll actually capture the right kind of people, the people who are going to love your book.
Man,
and that's important.
Preach. That's beautiful, man. Seriously, I think that out of all of the kind of, I agree, Chris Navo, another great booktuber and future fantasy author, is loving that idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. You've got these tools that you've equipped yourself with. You've put yourself in a space to where it's going to be, I hate to say inevitable, but you're going to get more of a positive response as far as getting books out there. People know your name than you would have if you would have just started this booktube channel or a Instagram,
right?
Yeah, exactly. So I like that, man. I think people should really take that seriously and take some tips. That's great.
Yeah, it's really strategy and setting yourself up, right? You really want to build yourself a firm foundation so that when you build this castle, this awesome thing, it's on a firm foundation, and you've done all this work prior to the book coming out, so that when the book does come out, it's easy for the people who already love you and are already coming around you to jump on board with.
You've got these people excited. And if you guys haven't seen his TikTok, you'll know what I mean when you do go there. This guy is very excited about what he's doing. He's enthusiastic, and it's contagious. So I highly recommend that. And
joy is contagious. If you have fun, the people will come and have fun with you.
I love that attitude, bro. Seriously. Great. Good for you. Good for you, because there's so much negative stuff out there.
There really is.
So it was refreshing, to say the least. It's very refreshing. So we've got your cover art. That's beautiful, man. I'm glad we touched on that. What's the name of your series?
Yeah, so the series is called Stone and Sky. Super easy to remember.
Yeah.
This is Stone and Sky. The whole series is called that. The Stone and Sky Preludes collection. Then you got Stone and Sky, and then book 2. I actually just revealed the cover for book 2 the other day on TikTok and Instagram. But the book 2 is called Stone and Tide. And the cover is legit. You guys are definitely, if you haven't seen it, go check it out, because Katarina did an insane job on the art for the next cover, and it is just phenomenal. If you go to that website, the freefantasyfiction.com, it actually is attached to the rest of my website, so you can find Stone and Tide there. Check out the art, the cover art, because it's awesome. But actually, Stone and Tide, I just got it back from the first round of edits. So editing,
dude, that's fast.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked about it. I think I edited I'm like 12 chapters today.
What?
And then I've got, I'll probably hand it over for second round of edits this week. Should be early this week, probably Tuesday or so. And then it'll go through another round of edits. And then I'll get it back and I'll go through it again. And then it'll go out for final edits in October, November. And then it's all test prints and making sure all the formatting and everything is right. And then it'll come out February 6th. How about that?
Man, that's really, wow. So that's efficient. I mean, that's the word that come to mind. That's efficiency at its finest. I mean, you just released a book. You've got these people probably reading it. I mean, these people who you've got on your side already, who are fans of yours, probably devoured that book. Am I right? There's people waiting for book number 2.
Yeah, well, I actually had a virtual release party the other night. Last night, actually, it was really fun. We had a whole bunch of people in there.
That's the event you were telling me about.
Yeah, and we were having such a good time, and we were getting to talk about the book, and we had like a whole non-spoilers section, and then we had a whole spoilers section after, and it was just a really great time getting to talk about the book. And of course, people were asking me about Stone and Tide, the next book, and what can you tell us? What do you? And I give them like, let me give you a little hints. Let me tell you a little bit about this,
little teasers.
About that. But I can't give you any. Like I can't give you all the good stuff.
I'm sure that's hard too. Like just not to dive into it.
Oh yeah, man, because it's so fun, and I'm like right in the thick of it, right? So I'm in the
Sure.
edits, and I handed off for second round of edits this week, right? And then next week I actually start book 3, which is legit. I'm
That's
super
cool,
stoked to
man.
start book 3,
Well, I can
and
tell. That's awesome.
uh,
That vibe, that's a vibe that you're putting across the vibe space, I guess you'll say it.
all
The
the
world.
verses.
Yeah, every verse.
The TikTok verse and the Insta verse and
I
all the
like.
verses.
Yeah, I like to throw out John Douglas. He's also about to release a book called The Black Crown. He likes to stop in. He's usually the first to comment. I was slacking a little bit tonight. I'll forgive
Slowing
him,
down.
man. But boom, shaka, that's a good one. I mean, how come we can't relate with that?
That's right.
Um,
That's
go,
hype. That's just pure hype. That's it.
it is. It is. It's hype. I feel it. So we've got Go Read Books, Matt, of course,
Yeah.
for us to know that. I'm spreading your name out
Just
there, dude.
ordered the Prelude paperback. Yeah, man, I love it. Yeah, I actually did those in hardcover as well, like the naked hardcovers. I agree. More books should be naked hardcovers because who likes dust jackets, man? I always take mine off. Do you always take yours off?
I do when I'm reading it. When it's
When
on
I'm
the
reading
shelf.
it, I
Yeah.
take it off, and like I have to find a place for this thing to like sit.
Yeah. So John's coming in here. He did say he has to run. I appreciate him popping in here, but he's giving me all sorts of just excuses tonight. So
Yeah.
I just got to throw him under the bus for a minute. No, he's a great dude. He's going places. He's got a great I don't know if I call it a booktube, but he does podcasts with authors,
Nice.
and he's a big comic guy.
Right
Respect
on.
what he's doing. We're doing some collaboration soon.
Oh,
And
cool.
I'm going to force him into it. Submission.
Yeah, that's right.
So we've got the name of the book. We've got the name of book 2, which I didn't expect you to drop. Thank you, man. And I'm so pumped. So we've got Stone and Tide. That's wonderful. Yeah. I can't wait to the Stone and Sky and Stone and Tide. I can't wait to know why those names are in there, because I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah. Oh, very, very good reasons.
Awesome, man. That's so enticing. So a subgenre, I think we kind of hit it. Epic fantasy adventure. Anything else?
Yeah, it's funny. I try to, when I was putting categories, because you have to, like, when you're setting up your book in all the places.
So you have a choice in that.
Add the categories. It's sort of.
Okay.
I learned this the other day, actually, that Amazon has kind of changed the way the categories work.
I always wondered.
You can put your categories in, but then they'll just change you. So, which I didn't expect. So, the other day we were celebrating, I hit #1 for a new release in a certain category, right? And then like the next day, my category got changed, and I was like, "What? Why? I don't understand." So, they can change your category whenever they want. So you try to pick the ones that make the most sense for you, and then they'll shuffle you wherever they want.
That's good to know. I'm learning more and more every interview, because most of the authors I speak to are published in many places, and you can buy through Amazon.
Sure.
So I'm beginning to learn that it depends on who you print through, right? Like Ingram Spark.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
I do prints through Ingram Spark for a lot of different retailers all over the world. Waterstones and all these other ones in different places in different countries. And of course they do, they print all over the place. They print for Powell's and they print for everywhere. Thank you for the bookshelves.
Yeah, I wanted to throw that up there.
Built them myself, actually. Thank you.
My man. So awesome. Did I. I respect the man that can build his own bookshelf.
That's right. It's an important skill to know.
It is. He's a carpenter.
Yeah, you got to know it. You got to know it. But I print through Ingram Spark. I'm actually working with Book Vault right now to.
That's a new one to me.
Set it up. Yeah, Book Vault's pretty legit. I'm working with them right now to get it set up so that I can sell print on demand directly from my website, so that people can buy the book from me directly.
Wow.
And it'll print right then and there, which is great, because I've had a lot of people ask, hey, like how best can we like support you? I want to buy from you, like the place that it's going to work the best. And of course, at this point, it's like, well, autograph copies. That's obviously the best one.
You're buying those through
But
by
I get those
Amazon, right?
printed through Amazon or printed from Ingram Spark. I
So
get them
Book Vault's
printed
a
from
third
work.
party coming in here and saying, okay, I'm going to give you some independence here.
Yeah, and so basically, what they'll do is so I have it set up on my website where somebody can buy the print version from me, and it'll go through their system, and they'll print it and ship it off to people, which is great.
Wow.
Which is a new world where authors don't have to have this crazy stock of books, and then they sell out, and then or they don't sell out and they have 4,000 books in their garage and it rains or something
Ooh.
and it's get destroyed, right? So
Yeah.
it's a whole new world, and I think it's going to work really well. I know Lulu also does the same thing, but thus far I've found that Book Vault is a better price.
Okay.
So
That's cool. That's a learning point for me, because I really never had thought about a third party letting you essentially okay, so you set up a website,
yeah,
you hire me to print your stuff, this and that, and you don't have to go to Amazon. You don't have to
Yeah.
go to Waterstones, whatever. That's cool,
right.
man.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
It is. That sounds awesome. So, what would you consider your book? Would NA, YA, or is it an adult fantasy?
Yeah, so I wrote them as adult fantasies, but I also actually run a pretty tight ship because I do have kids,
Mhm.
and I love my kids so much. Like I want them to be a part of the stories that
That's
I'm writing,
great,
right?
dude. That's
And
great.
so I'm like, when I write it, my book, while it's a technically a general trade adult fantasy,
Okay.
it is also very, very reasonable for young adult readers as well. I've had
I love
plenty of
that.
moms actually reach out to me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this book was so great. I love it. I'm totally gonna let my son read it." And he's like 10. Like, and I'm
Moms
like,
are the
"Oh, that's
best.
awesome, dude. That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, he'll totally love it." And she's, they're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, he's gonna love it. The sword fights and the griffins fighting with wyverns, and like,
Yes.
they're just gonna love it." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's
So that's a different side. Okay, so I've done a lot of grimdark authors. I've done a lot of
yeah,
like, I guess you would say, like, very much so adult fantasy,
sure,
like
right,
dark
right,
fantasy. I
yeah,
love that aspect that you just threw in there, because I'm
yeah,
expecting my fourth child any minute now.
yeah. There you go.
And dude, I get it. Like, that
Yeah,
is awesome that
you
you
want
incorporate
something you
that.
can share with them, right? And
Yeah.
it's so I ran a really tight ship on it. Really tried to keep it as clean as I could. Leaving out any steamy stuff. Trying to keep
Thank
the
you for that.
yeah, right. Trying to keep the gore to a minimum. Like obviously we're having sword fights and
Yeah.
stuff, like we're launching, magical spears and axes and all sorts of cool stuff, right? Of
Yeah.
course, there's battle, right?
But you're letting
I
the
try to keep
imagination.
it, yeah, try to keep it tight so that we don't overboard, right, on those kinds of things.
I respect it.
Like language, nothing, dude. Like tried to keep it no explicit language. I just wanted it to be as available for people to read, even with their children, because
Yeah.
I want my children to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, you don't want to be like, Mommy, why can't I read Daddy's book? I'm 10 now. Well,
Right,
So
right.
And to be honest with you, the one adaptation that kind of made me mad
Yeah.
was Game of Thrones. I can't watch the adaptation. Me and my wife just leave it alone. There's just way too much. It's a porno. And look, I'm just not into it. So when I hear what you're saying, I respect it. I love it, because there's a time and place. There's a time and place.
Right.
And in my book, if I want to read something like that, which I really don't, if it's nothing but sex and this and that, I'm not really into it.
I really wanted to focus on having an adventure and having magic and high stakes battles, and like I wanted to write something very classic style fantasy.
Yeah.
And so when
I
people
like that
ask me
classic.
Yeah, when people ask me what kind of fantasy I write, I usually say classic style fantasy
I
because
love that.
that's my jam, man. I
Yeah,
love the classic style fantasy. It's magic and it's dwarves and elves and magical creatures and all sorts of fun stuff. And
this kind of guy.
that's it, man. That's it.
I love that, dude. So, yeah, I can't say that enough. Yeah, so Book Mama says, much respect for that. I knew that I wouldn't be alone in that. Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
100%. We all
absolutely.
have kids, man. Like the ones of us that have kids, it's like, I aspire to write myself. Boom, I bet that was never going to, a booktuber that wants to write. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
Whoa, what?
yeah, can't believe I just shocked the whole world. But my idea is pretty much the same as what you were explaining earlier. Get a following, get people on my side who respect me and like
That's
what I'm
right.
doing, and they'll be fans.
That's
If I
right.
write something worth being a fan of,
Sure,
at least
right.
I'll have the chance to.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. You're setting yourself up for the best chance at that
yeah,
point, right?
and if that's what I want to do, I think, and just like yourself, you have to set yourself up for what you want to occur.
Right.
And you
Right.
did that very well. I look up to you for that. Much respect. Same thing with
Thank you.
the
Thank
not going all out with the sex and the gore.
you. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to write what I like to read too, you know?
Mhm.
And it's like I just want to have an adventure, man. Like I want to
Yeah,
go on this awesome fantasy adventure. I want
yeah,
to see cool weapons and I want to see cool sorcerers and people figuring out all sorts of mysteries and it's
yeah.
like
Be a kid
classic
again.
fantasy. You want to read what makes your heart just open up with
Hmm.
joy, right?
You're writing through your passion. You've got the passionate eye right here, right? And so that one
Mm-hmm.
is checking as you're writing. I like that. So we've got it's an adult fantasy, but acceptable for those of all ages,
Yeah.
close. So, what was your inspiration behind the first book, particularly
Um,
starting this journey?
Yeah. So before I've written a lot of different things. When I came back from Afghanistan, I actually started writing as a way to cope with different things.
Yeah,
And I ended up writing a lot of horror, believe it or not.
no,
But
I believe it.
I actually really enjoy classic style horror as well. So
Okay,
very much like gothic and creature
ooh,
feature and
a good folk
uh,
horror is good, right?
eerie. Yeah. I'm not looking for something super gory or like grotesque, right? I just like eerie and creepy kind of horror, right? So I
Yeah.
wrote a lot of that, and I actually got quite a few of those published over the last couple of years, and I've written all sorts of different things like literary nonfiction pieces and articles, and I even got paid to publish a poem. So I'm
Ooh,
an official poet as well, which
poet
I
and
was
prose.
never expecting. So that was awesome. But
Was that fun?
yeah, it was. It was
Cool.
actually. I wasn't expecting it, but it was. I had a much better time with it than I expected.
That's great.
Um, but this book, I have always. So when I was a kid, I didn't have glasses, and I needed them really bad.
Oh, okay.
And so as a kid, I hated reading. It became a chore. It was like something that was horrible for me. And I just like it was horrible because I would lay my head on the book because I have astigmatism. And for some reason, I couldn't read from one line, the end of one line to the next line. I would
Mm,
just read the same line over and over, and it drove me crazy. And I was like, I thought I was dumb. I couldn't read, whatever.
yeah.
So I got by on figuring out what teachers wanted to hear and doing whatever I could to get grades and pass, right? Uh, then I joined the Air Force and they were like, bro, you totally need glasses. That changed my world, bro, because all of
Yeah.
a sudden I was reading everything I could get
I
my
bet
hands
your
on.
world opened up like,
Just,
oh my
I
gosh.
lost my mind. I was over the moon, right? But when I was a kid, the only book, I mean, the only book that I powered through
Hmm.
was The Hobbit. And
Okay.
I read The Hobbit, and it was just like I didn't care how long it took me to read that book. I was gonna read the whole thing, and
Yeah.
I did, and I loved it. And I think it was like 2 weeks later, I wrote my own story called The
Mm.
Flobbit.
That's
Which
great.
of course was ridiculous.
But that's a
but
beautiful stepping stone, man. That's a great
but it
story.
was, yeah, it's just the start of something, right? It's the start of something. And then I didn't know that later on I was going to get glasses and I was going to be like, wow, my whole world has changed, right?
Yeah.
And always in my heart there has been this love for fantasy, right? And
Mhm.
so I always knew that my first book, because I was writing all these stories and selling them and doing good there, but I was like, no, my first book is going to be fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna have a fantasy adventure. It's gonna happen. And
Yes.
I remember discovering like R.A. Salvatore and stuff when I finally got glasses, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this.
Now,
It's so
now,
exciting.
when you were overseas, did you have people send you books?
It's so funny. Okay, so I got my glasses like only like a couple months before I went overseas. So I
Well, that
didn't
was
know.
smart of the Air Force.
Yeah, they were
You
like,
know,
bro, you need
before
glasses.
we
Like,
send you
let's
over
get that
to
sorted
war
out, right?
zone. Yeah.
Which, fair enough. A good point. Good point, guys.
Yeah.
Um, so when that happened, I went and got a book we went to Barnes and Noble or something, because I was like, dude, like, I can see now. I bet I
Yeah.
can read. Like,
Let's
I bet, let's
read.
try this, right? Let's do this. I go over there. I find a book by Jason Elam, the former kicker for the Broncos. Okay.
Yeah.
And a guy named Steve Yan. And I pick up this book, and it's called Monday Night Jihad. Okay. And so it's this thriller about an attack that happens at like a professional NFL style football stadium, right?
Okay.
And one of the players is former special ops guy from the Air Force, right? And I'm like, dude, come on, let's go. And I was getting deployed to the same
Mood
place
reading.
where it was like mood reading to the max, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yes, okay, I'll read this. And so I read that book and I cruised through it and I loved it. And I was like, okay, I got to get the next one. There was another one already out. So I grabbed that one before I left for Afghanistan. I stuffed it in my bag and it went with me. And then I did end up getting like the next one shipped to me. And I think the next one shipped to me after that as well. But I did have that series that I was reading while I was there. And then go figure, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
I get stationed at a different base afterwards. Okay.
Yeah.
I get stationed at a different base and we can buy a house because it has a duty pay and all these other things.
Sure.
We're like, oh, let's buy a house. This will be great. And it was Colorado. And I was like, awesome. We can totally buy a house there. That'll be great. And go figure, I get to read the last book when we move there. And go figure, I read in the back that one of the guys is a pastor at a church at our like sister town, because of these two little towns. And I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
No
Get
way.
out of town.
So I was like, okay, let me go. Let me go talk to it. Like, let me at least go and say hey and say, dude, your books are amazing. I read them while I was in Afghanistan. It was awesome, right?
Yeah.
I go over there. I meet him. I say, dude, your books are amazing. Blah, blah, blah. I read them in Afghanistan. I got to share them with some of my buddies out there, some of my battle buddies. It was great.
Mm.
And he's like, dude, we got to talk about this. Let's go have lunch. And I'm like, okay, like,
Sure.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, what? Okay. And then go figure, I get out of the Air Force a year and a half after, and I end up getting hired at the same church and working with him for 3 years. And it just,
that's incredible
awesome.
story, man.
Awesome. Like, incredible, right? Incredible.
Yes. So I guess the reason I asked that, wow, I'm so glad I did. That's an amazing story. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's not one I share all the time, but it's
Thank
such a
you.
cool, it really is such a cool
It's
story.
like in our own ways, our own beliefs, God kind of brings you to a space where you need to be. And look at that, man. So the reason I ask is it is very cool. The reason I ask is I just sent my brother-in-law's over Poland right now, helping with the refugees from Ukraine, and he's in the army. And I know Timothy will stop in either during this or watch it afterward. But when he sent me his book to review, which I'm reading what month is it? September, in November.
Yeah.
I'm reviewing it in November. Platinum Tinted Darkness by Timothy Wolfe. He sent me a hardcover and he sent me a soft cover. I sent the
Cool.
soft cover overseas. I sent a few other indie offs. I can't remember right now if I really thought about it. But anywho, I was wondering how that's got to be important. You've got people who are thinking about you. You've got your. I mean, he's got my sister and him have three kids.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm sure that's tugging on him the hardest.
Of course.
You've got to let these people know that you love and care about, that you're thinking about them.
Totally. Yeah. Packages over there are like a lifeblood for you.
Sure.
Honestly, it's a lifeline back to life at home, right? And it's incredible what a box means, and even silly things like hot sauce.
Oh yeah.
Let me just tell you how much hot sauce. Like if a box came and we opened it up and there was hot sauce in it, it was like a mag grab. Like everybody just trying to get the hot sauce.
I love that.
You need it. Just little things, that just change the world for you while you're over there, and it's a big deal. Yeah.
Thank you for your service, man. I love the stories you're giving me. I feel very honored to hear them and be a part of what you're doing. I appreciate you on my show, but I've got a bunch of questions still.
Sorry. I know we're kind of all over the place, but that's all right.
I tell you, I was telling you before we start, like sometimes it's like it's kind of hard to get through an interview with somebody who doesn't like to talk.
Yeah,
man,
sure.
I love when people like to talk.
I was in Afghanistan.
Yeah, like respect to people like that, but at the same time, it's hard to interview those people.
I read books sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thanks.
Exactly. So, man, inspiration behind your first book, that's a big inspiration. I love that. So when did you realize that you wanted to be a writer? Like, was there an aha moment that you can zoom back to real quick?
I can say that when I realized that I could write, I realized I may need to do more of this.
Okay.
Because it was one of those things I figured it was for me first, right? And when you read Stone and Sky, you'll actually see some things like this in the book, is that you lose a lot of hope when you see some of the most horrible things that the planet has to offer, right? And hope is this thread that can keep you going, that can pull you through the darkness and the hurt and the anguish. And so actually the book, the main theme of Stone and Sky is hope, right? Hope for a better future.
I love that.
The dedication, it says, to Brittany, to our future hope, right? This future hope that there's always something to hope towards, right? And when I realized that even in like the horror stories I was writing, and even in some of these other stories that I was writing that didn't seem like they had these magnificent themes, people were still reaching out to me and going, man, that's like amazing. Like it really touched me this way. And the way that you spoke about this, I wrote this story about a veteran, who's all by himself. His wife has died. His son has died. He's all alone in life. And it's a really heart-wrenching story. But I've had so many people come and talk to me like, dude, that like, I so have felt that way. And this changed my life. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. We need to write more. We need to write more. I think it's time to start doing some books.
Wow, man. Wow. That's all I really have to say is wow. That's incredible. I think E.L. Montague has a good question, which is to say you tried writing and then got some positive feedback, or you wrote something that made you happy.
Yeah. It's a combination of both. So I was writing because it made me happy, right? It made me feel better. And then I started getting this feedback that, actually, it can actually impact other people as well. And so it was like, oh, okay. So this is bigger than just me. All right. I need to start really pushing into this, diving into this. So It's a big deal.
Yeah, I like that answer, and I like the question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Who had a hand in your writing style? And what I mean by this is, were there authors? Was there? I mean, it could be a doorknob if that's your answer. What inspired you to write how you write?
So I can say, so when I finally got glasses, I felt like I had all these years to catch up on, right? Because I was like, I went 22 years and I only read 2 books, like all the way through. Like, how did
You had a
this
slight
happen?
reason.
Yeah, like I had a reason, sure, but at that point, I was like, dude, I got some catch up to do. So I started picking up classics and all sorts of things, like Edgar Allan Poe and reading H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Rice Burroughs, and I started reading all these classics.
Yeah.
And so I found that when I was writing, a lot of my horror had this very gothic language to it. But I also started realizing that, okay, some of this language is so outdated that people have no idea what my stories are about. So
Yeah.
it kind of had to shift. And then I found, books by authors like R.A. Salvatore, who doesn't really he's got some philosophy and stuff in there, but really he just writes fun adventure and action-packed things, right? And I was like, okay, so like I can find this good balance here and have the poetic language, but also I can just have fun with this. I don't have to take it so seriously, thinking that I'm going to be some literary, critic.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, like
yes, right, right. So
yeah.
I was like, okay, let's just have fun with this. Let's go.
Okay, that's great, man. That sounds very I don't know. I can't really think of a word other than like it just happened naturally.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good way to put it.
When you just start digging in, man, you just glean from everybody, right? And it's funny how you do find that you start using words in a weird way that maybe people don't use nowadays or whatever, right?
Sure. No, you had an influence and you use that influence, and it happens to be a little more modern than what people read now. So you adjusted it. I get that.
Yeah.
We got some Okie dude coming in. Gosh, sometimes I have the biggest brain fart. We did an interview a while back. I think he's going to post it soon, but he dropped in, say, how's it going, Matt? Thank you. It's going well. I'm interviewing a wonderful indie author. And who are some favorite authors or novels of yours, or both?
Yeah. Okay. So this one, I have to say, obviously, J.R.R. Tolkien, you gotta love it. Classic. You can't go wrong. I've mentioned R.A. Salvatore a couple of times. Why? Because it became an absolute favorite of mine. I love Edgar Rice Burroughs because I'm probably 79 years old on the inside.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, you love what you love, right? Yeah, I just read this book the other day. Let me grab it.
Absolutely. It's not like we're on a time constraint or nothing. I promise. Grab anything you need to.
This book right here. You gotta. Okay, this book. It's called The Rover by Mel Odom. Let me see if I can get that up. Looking good.
Yeah, The Rover by Mel Odom.
Yes, The Rover by Mel Odom.
Grab a pen.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I absolutely loved this book. It was recommended to me by a friend because they know that I absolutely. What's that?
It's a thicky one.
Oh yeah. It's I think it's 500 pages or so.
Okay.
Yeah, 500 pages. It's got that old paper, so it's like nice and thick and
smells good.
Smells so good. It smells like it's been in the library for like 100 years.
That's the best.
But The Rover by Mel Odom. It is so much fun. Classic style fantasy. It's all about a halfer, which is Mel Odom's like word for a halfling, right?
Okay.
And he's a 3rd level librarian at the last library on the planet, right?
Ooh.
And he ends up getting shanghaied by some pirates and like this
Interesting eye.
this band of dwarven pirates who take him out on the sea, and he starts having to learn how to do things, right,
Ooh.
to survive. He ends up starting to record everything.
Mm.
He gets some paper and he starts writing his own book and doing drawings and stuff during the adventure, and then he ends up getting captured by these goblin slavers.
Yeah,
And then
watch out for those goblins.
then he becomes a slave for the goblins, and then he gets like freed by this thieving band with like dwarves and men, and then they go on an adventure to like this crazy place in the mountains because they're trying to get this treasure, only to find out that there's a dragon. Dude, it is so much stinking fun. It is classic fantasy, like it's classic fantasy at the best. At its
So
best.
yeah, I had to look it up on Amazon because that's on my list now. Okay, so we've got a 4.5 rating from Mr. Mel Odom. They did a hardcover version in 2001, and guess what? There's 4 books to this series.
Dude, I know.
Man.
So I just found that. So I just found this one at like our local like used bookstore, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, this one sounds right up my alley. This will be great. Especially because of the friend that recommended it. And I was like, that's perfect. This is great. Dude, it was so much fun. And then I was like, there's more? Oh my gosh.
So have you read any of the other ones?
I haven't gotten them yet because I just finished this one.
Well, how exciting is that to know, though? Like, there's 3 more that could potentially be.
That?
Yes, dude, I do. That's why I love what you're doing. You not only is like, hey, I'm dropping book 1, and I was number 1 on in my subgenre, and guess what? I'm about to drop that number 2 right in your face, dog.
That's right. Let's go.
That's awesome, man. So E.L. Montague says, who is your favorite character to write and why?
Oh, who's my favorite character to write? So I have this orc in the first book, and he gets a lot of page time throughout the book. And there is something, he's introspective, and he analyzes everything, and he wants to do the right thing, and he finds himself in this tension. Now, of course, he's an orc, so the right thing may not necessarily be the right thing for us, right? Or for the humans, it's objective, right, for him. And so he is stuck in this tension between trying to do the right thing all the time for his family, for his tribe, for his kingdom, and also living out of the shadow of his father, right? And so he is this really interesting character that I really enjoy writing. And then actually a character that I write in the first book, but gets even more page time in the second book, is a king who was manipulated and brainwashed by a sorcerer, by a wicked sorcerer.
Those sorcerers.
And I know you got to watch out for them. And it was really interesting because in the first book, I got to write a lot of him being under the brainwashing. But in the second book, I've gotten to write the aftermath for him, which has been really, really interesting. So in the second book, I've really enjoyed writing him.
That's awesome. That has to be the coolest thing. Like, having an aspiration to write, there's different scenarios in which I haven't thought about. And one of those is what you just spoke of. Like, you start this conflict or this problem in book 1, and you're getting to continue that adventure in book 2. And I bet that's so fun to write, man.
Oh, dude, it's so fun to write. And the cool thing is as you go about it, you start writing a little differently because you learn from the process, right? You learning as you go. And I was writing the first book very much like discovery writing, just going for it. Where's this adventure going to take us? But that had to happen. That part of the process had to happen because I had to find this world that was inside me. I had to discover this world and the magic and the rules and how it worked and who lived there. I had to discover those things before I could really get the story nailed, right? And I had the story pretty much premised out for the most part for the trilogy at the very least. And then what happened was, as discovery continued to happen, about halfway through the book, I decided, okay, we're gonna have to plot, like we're gonna have to at least pinpoint like where these guys need to be at the end of each chapter, because I know by the time we get here, everybody's got to get here. So how are we going to get here? And so then you start going, okay, now I got to organize this a little bit differently, because now we got to get to somewhere else. So you just learn as you write and as you go through the process. And then the second book, man, I pinpointed most things for the whole book. Every chapter I was like, should follow these guys, should be here by the end of this chapter, should follow these guys. Like very loose stuff, right? Because I'm still discovering this story as we go, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when we get to here, it's like, oh, well, this character is actually not with these guys anymore because this thing happened. So, okay, we'll just adjust that a little bit and we keep going, right?
I love that. And that's good advice too, because like as somebody who wants to write, that's very good advice, and it's a good foresight. It's the process is somewhat grueling to think about.
It can be
because you have a beginning and an end, and that's way simpler than it is. It's
it's really simplified.
So right now, just to put it in perspective from my eyes, I started actually with my wife yesterday, because I like to check my names with her, because she's not a fantasy fan. So I want to appeal to somebody who can say my fantasy names simply. You know.
That's good. What I call that is approachable. You're trying to be a very approachable fantasy. And I've used that same phrasing when describing it to other people who maybe necessarily aren't fantasy fans, because they tried something like, Wheel of Time, and they were like, what on earth?
Yeah, that's a difficult.
We get it, guys.
That's a world that's way out there.
It's something else.
It is.
But being approachable, having those human connections at the very least. Get it.
So it's good to know that. So I'm getting to know my characters. I'm getting to like picture them in my mind. I'm getting a name. I'm getting like their personality down. That's my first step. And somebody, I mean, there's so many people in that same step, I'm sure. So you're throwing out some great advice. I love that. That's what I'm doing these interviews for. I'm getting to know you before I read your book. That's going to be so good. I hope people feel that same way when they watch this. I saw him as a person, and he's this person. Okay, and when I read him, okay, this makes more sense. This lines up. Okay, so this may be a deeper theme. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And you start looking for different nuggets, he's all about people having fun while reading and enjoying that. Okay, I can see that, right? But then there's also like heart-striking things where they'll be like, wow, like, man, and it makes you wonder, okay, what has this guy seen? Because holy crap, like that's sad, right? But
do you have anything in like your acknowledgments or anything about you being a veteran?
It's at the very least, I know that it's in my bio at the end, about the author. I know it says that in there. I don't know that I have it in my acknowledgments. For this book, it was very much a process that happened with very specific people around and rallying around it. And so I had to very specifically.
I can see like versions of you that would and versions that wouldn't. Like, it's not something that I think is good or bad either way. Like, I just wondered based on just our talk, like, I know that now, and I will think deeper into some themes than others, which will make the reading experience more personal. So I love that. So, so we've got Tolkien and we've got The Rover. Anybody else or any other novel?
The Rover is killer. So much fun.
Dude,
this is so much fun. It was a very recent surprise for me that I really was all about. Obviously, I recommend R.A. Salvatore to everybody. The Legend of Drizzt is an absolute blast.
Okay. heard that answer a lot. Now I've heard it before, but
Yeah,
I like that you went on to say
yeah.
that.
It's so much. It's just so much fun. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously.
And
It's
everybody says it
just
differently.
fun, right?
It's like,
And
is there even a right word to say drizzed or dreast or
you
whatever?
know what? I had this debate with a couple of my children
Oh,
and,
that's
and a
great.
couple of other people that I know. And they were like, I think it's Drizzt. And I was like, I mean,
Ooh, that's
it
a
could
deep
be.
question.
And so I had to look at it. And we finally listened to the audiobook narration and
Mhm.
we felt
Ooh,
we felt good about Drizzt.
drist. I like that
That's
you
why we
went to
felt
the
good.
source, man. Because
That's
now is
right.
R.A. Salvatore still alive?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
He
so
he
yeah,
just
they've got the
I think
best
he
source
just
available.
released. Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, I think he just released like book number 42 or something in the Legend of Drizzt. It's crazy,
What a
right?
gangster, dude.
I
That's
mean, yeah,
gangster.
right. What a move, right? Uh,
How
uh,
dare he think who is he think he is releasing
who's
book number
this guy?
42?
This guy, like this guy. Go for it, bro. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you could
Yeah.
keep writing stories in this wonderful world, I would go
Man,
for it.
just another person to make me feel like I'm not a single speck in this
That I'm a
world.
total slacker, right?
Yeah. No, that's great, man. I love that. Dude, the balls on these people who release so many books, man. I absolutely look up to it. So E.L. Montague says, "Do you live with your characters when you are away from your keyboard?" Ooh, that's deep.
Ooh, ooh, that is
It
deep.
is.
I will say yes, all the time. I mean,
Okay.
just all the time. You
Honesty.
know, have you guys seen? You guys have seen this recent trend where women are asking their husbands or boyfriends how often they think about the Roman Empire, right? And the answer, surprisingly, has been like once a day for most guys, like across the board. And I got asked the same question, and I said, maybe in some fashion, but in reality, I have this whole stinking world
Yeah.
filled with characters and people that I know intimately that is always in my head. And it's like I have ideas for other books. I think we counted it out the other day, and I have at least ideas for 11 more books that happen in this fantasy world. And
That's awesome.
like, which is so cool, but
Yeah.
it goes to show how full your brain is with it. So if I told you no, that would have been a lie. It's all the time.
Yeah. So we've got a couple here from Matt. I know there are
Yeah.
different opinions about this term, and I don't know where you fall on it, but would you consider your books clean fantasy? This topic has come up a lot lately.
Yeah, I've been seeing this come up a lot as well, and I think so. When it comes down to defining the term clean fantasy, it's not necessarily that other fantasy is dirty, but it's become this term that it encompasses more than non-spicy, right? Because we see so much spicy books
Yeah,
on TikTok, on Book Talk. It's this
100%.
huge thing, right? We see so much spicy books, right? But it's not just spicy. It's not just about spice. It's about explicit language, explicit sex or
Yeah,
spice on the
awkward to read
page.
if you're me, I get.
Right, right. And then also, gratuitous violence, like really gory violence, right? And so clean kind of just encompassed the three of those things, so that people who are looking for books that don't have those three things, at least that makes sense to their brain. I've been
Yeah,
seeing it come up a lot more as well, Matt, and I don't necessarily dislike the term because it at least gives them a definitive term.
yeah,
Um, Whoever came up with the term clean, I understand that there's this idea that the opposing force is dirty. I know that's tough, but you gotta have a word for it.
yeah.
So
I get what you're
there's got
saying.
to be something, right? You got to be able to
But
call it
by
something.
defining something, what you do, if it's a definition of something, a work that somebody puts out, you're putting yourself in this box that you don't necessarily want to be put in. but also you can't necessarily say you're not in the box by the definition given to it.
Right. And
Okay.
so you just got to be careful. Like, I
Yeah.
get it.
I
I
think that
get
your
it.
answer is good. You explain
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. My book falls under the category, but at the same time, look, it's not clean versus dirty. It's really just, that's the term that they came up with
Yeah.
to define those three things that are missing from the book, right?
He also goes ahead and says that Salvatore recently did a live with Mike's book reviews. And
Oh,
of course he
nice.
did. Damn it, Mike. You've outdone me again. No, I love it.
Man,
I love Mike's
that
book reviews, man.
is
He does
awesome.
a great job. I got to check that out now because I like to put a face to my authors. Do you?
Yeah. I do too. Is that weird? I'm
I
a
hope
visual
not.
person. I'm a visual person. I like to see things. That's why
Yeah.
I drew my map. Like, that's why I put so much into the visual presentation of the book,
Yeah.
because I am a visual person. And so I do. I like to
think
just
readers
put a
are
face to it.
visual people. Like I don't read a single book where if I'm like, if I can consider what's happening and it's not hard to read, I guess. Like for
Yeah.
instance, Malazan, something like that's kind of a hard read. You got to read it
Yeah,
slow.
sure.
You
got to make sure you're catching every word so that you're not missing something, right?
Yeah, so we like to visually see things. So being a visual person, I think, is a very common theme amongst readers.
Yeah.
I think
We all use most of us use our eyes to read unless we're using audiobooks. But even with audiobooks, we are very imaginative people because
I think that's a better word.
We're able to put pictures to things, to words in our brains, right? And so I agree. I don't think visualizing or seeing an author's face is a bad thing at all. I like it because then I'm like, I feel a little more connected with
Yeah, it's like, that's my dude. I know
that's
that
my guy.
now.
Yeah, I love that
it's
guy.
like if I see him, I'm like, hey man, and he's like, who are you?
Yeah, well, and in the case of Steve Yon, I got to look in the back and I knew what his face looked like, so I could approach the right guy when I met him the next week, right? Like,
but then also, like, I'll read a book and I'm like, what does this girl or guy look like? And it also is kind of mysterious, if the book hits that way.
Yeah.
Montague says he loves Drist, so we've got another Drist fan amongst the millions.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah. So what is a goal you have as a writer?
Oh man, that's a good question.
I bet that's hard to think of a single goal.
Yeah, so one of the great goals I have for my life is to leave something behind for my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and my great-great-grandchildren who will never get to meet me.
Yeah.
And in a way, when I write these books and these stories, which the entire purpose for me in these stories is that the reader will have fun, because I had so much fun writing them and going on these adventures that I just want people to have fun and joy. And at the end of the day, if I have grandchildren or great-grandchildren who never got to meet me, and they can open these books and go on a magical adventure with their great-great-grandpa someday, and just know me in a way and know that I love them, even though I never got to meet them.
Oh man,
showing them that kind of love, it's a legacy thing for me.
Damn, you absolutely have won that question. That's a great way to put it. Wow, leaving a legacy, I think, is what you're hinting at, and that's a great legacy, dude. Absolutely. So we've got Nick Horvath from Sledge versus Books. I believe he just sent me an actual an ebook arc. I can't wait to get to it. That's the power of a book. Art is immortal. Ooh, that sticks home, huh?
That's good, man. That's
Let's put that in stone.
Yeah, right.
Along with your answer for the last question. I love that. So, man, what a goal. Yeah, that's beautiful. Where can people follow you and your work?
Oh, man, I am all over the place.
By the way, before you go ahead and lift them all, if I'm missing any, and I'm sure I am, I will put those in the description, every one of them. So Go ahead.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So obviously, the best way to follow me is on my readers list, and you can join my readers list at freefantasyfiction.com, where you'll get 7 free fantasy stories about characters that show up in the Stone and Sky world, which is super fun. A lot of people have really enjoyed reading those beforehand and then reading the book, and like it's like finding old friends. That they've been telling me, so that's super awesome. Another thing is I do the TikToks and I do the Instagrams, and apparently Matt's gonna make me sort out my Twitter and start getting that sorted out. But those are at ZS Diamanti, and I'll fix Twitter so it's at ZS Diamanti as well.
Right.
But yeah, and you can always hit me up at my website, which is zsdiamanti.com, or freefantasyfiction.com will get you there as well. So
okay, so they kind of go back
they're
to
connected.
the same. Okay, all right, because I do have the original website that you said, zsdiamanti.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got that one on there, but I will include this one, freefantasyfiction.com. What's next for you?
What's next? Oh man, so obviously finishing up edits, round 1 of edits on Stone and Tide, which is epic. I'm so excited about that one. I've already been told that it's much cleaner, crisper, and she liked it better.
You're
so
growing.
I was like, killer. I love that. Love hearing that.
Same editor then, right?
Learn. Let's get better. Let's always get better, right?
Same editor.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's seeing this growth.
Yeah, which is killer. That's just wonderful. But I get to start book 3, which I haven't revealed the title yet for, and I'm not going to do that today.
That's okay.
But I get to start writing book 3, not this week, but next week, and that is going to be super epic. I'm excited.
So happy for you.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got book 2 edits. We've got book 3 starts.
Oh yeah, buddy.
And you've got a man here who's going to start book 1 soon.
Let's go.
So from let's see. Do you use betas, and how many?
Do I use betas? No, I don't use betas. So what I do is I go through a process of developmental edits. So it's similar to a beta in that they'll give you issues. They'll point out issues where you have to fix something, or hey, this needs more development, or hey, you mentioned this here, but you never gave us anything about that for the rest of the book. You need to come back to that, or they point out different things that need to get developed, and that's what developmental editing is. And when you go through the process of developmental editing, you're going through the process with an editor that you trust, and you trust their judgment. Whereas betas, you get a lot of just spaghetti thrown at the wall. And so for me and for my process, betas don't really work. I am setting up a brand new ARC team, which is really exciting. That's really cool. So that'll be a process where readers will get to read the book, obviously, before the book comes out, about a month or so, because they're going to review it for launch and that kind of thing. But they're going to read a book that's done, versus where betas get to help you develop it. So I don't use beta readers. I use developmental editors.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I think that's a little different. And I like the fact that you're using so by developmental editing and readers, you're getting an actual response from an editor kind of deal.
Yeah, the people who know storytelling, people who understand the process, people who understand how it works, and somebody whose judgment you trust. Versus beta readers. Beta readers work for some people, for some authors. For me, it doesn't really work, because when I'm writing the story, I know what my story is supposed to be, and I know where it's supposed to go. So if you can help me develop it in a way that's like still the story, then we're good. That's solid. Hey. But when you got betas, they throw out all sorts of things. And again, it's spaghetti at the wall. And now you're like looking at like 17 different like opinions on your story.
Confusing.
It won't work for me personally. And so it's just not a process I go through.
I like that answer just because it's different. You know,
Yeah.
you come across lots of authors that do beta readers, alpha readers, and this stuff,
Yeah.
and I didn't know that was necessary. I guess I could have figured that out eventually, but
Yeah.
I like to hear that that's an option where you kind of just like,
Yeah.
my story's solid because that's what the heck I wanted to write, and
Yeah.
developmentally, um,
Having somebody who can check you developmentally is
yeah,
important, totally. But also having somebody who recognizes the story, the through line, and understands where you're trying to go,
yeah,
they can help you develop it to get to where you're trying to go, rather
in a
than
structural standpoint.
correct, rather than people trying to give you all these ideas that take you all sorts of different directions.
Yeah. So he
And
also asks, how about a writing group or partners?
yeah, so I've been a part of a number of writing groups actually, and I think they're good, especially early on, especially if you're working on something. That's another way to get developmental type edits, where you have your writing group go through it with you, and they understand that you're. That's another thing where it's not open to these betas. It's open to a very small group of people that you trust their opinion, you trust their know-how, you trust that they're going to call you out and try to help you develop it in a way that you still get to tell your story. So it's another great option. I've been a part of several of them in the past. I'm not currently part of one right now just because I've been way too busy to be in one.
Well, and I think you're growing as a writer. You're getting feedback based on your personal process, and I think you've got
Right.
the efficiency to continue and get better and better. Just from speaking to you here.
Yeah, you got to know your process and how you're wired and how you do things, right? Because if people are going to try to make you work a certain way, but my brain doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
I have to go this way.
And who knows that better from somebody who couldn't see to read for a long time?
Sure, right, right.
Know?
That's very fair.
Yeah, well, what I mean is that you have honed that in, and it's much more personal, that point that you're making, than I think other people will find that. Your experience is your knowledge, and you're using that. You're not letting it just slide under the table. You're using it. So that's great, man. So we know where to get a hold of you. We know where to buy your work. Where we can purchase your books?
Yeah, when people ask me what's the best way to order my books, well, obviously from the website. I do have autographed copies. I do autographed paperback copies. We put together these really great boxes with some other sweet goodies and stuff in there.
Some swag.
I won't tell you all of the surprises that you get in there,
because I'm going to order one.
They're very fun. They're pretty fun boxes. So if you look around on TikTok and other places, you'll find them. But if you want to spoil it for yourself, you can. But we like to put some extra goodies and stuff in there. That's the best way to buy them, because obviously I get the best royalties out of that versus Amazon or anywhere else. But if you go to the website and you click on the book Stone and Sky or Stone and Sky Preludes, it'll go to a specific page, and it's got buttons for almost every retailer you could think of. So you can find it pretty much anywhere at this point.
Links will be in the description, guys. Is there anything that we haven't highlighted that you'd like to cover?
Man, I don't know. This has been really fun. We've gotten to answer some questions and stuff too that we weren't expecting. And that's awesome. I want to thank you for having me on, because this has been a lot of fun. I've gotten to do a couple of podcasts recently, which has been great. And I've just been so over the moon and thankful for all the wonderful love and support that I've seen for Stone and Sky. It's been out for not yet a month, and I can officially say that we are over 1,000 books out there now.
Wow.
Which is just like so fire. I'm over the moon about that. That is just like so amazing.
That's something to be proud of.
It wasn't something I expected to happen right away. But we're less than a month, and I'm blown away. I'm just humbled and grateful about all of this. And I'm so thankful for all the people who have just wanted to come and join me on a epic fantasy adventure and just have fun.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm so happy for you, man.
So cool, dude.
So one quick question before we go, because I like to give everybody, who do you want to read and who should I be reading?
Ooh, okay. So I just started reading Michael R. Miller, his
me too.
Dragon's Blade trilogy.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely loving it.
Will you join us and ask us some questions when he comes on my channel?
Dude, yes, when?
Awesome. I will look at my calendar, but it's on this. Yeah, it's coming up soon. I'll send you the date.
Yes, let me know, because I would absolutely love it. That's great. That's great.
I'm looking forward to that, to having ZS Diamanti.
Yeah.
With Mr. Sorry to take over that question, but
awesome.
I love that you're reading that too.
Yeah, I just started it, and it is let's call it a breath of fresh air, because I've been trying to power through Wheel of Time, and it's not been going well for me.
There are points where you have to power through. Yeah, I get it. I really do. And I'm only 4 books in.
Yeah, I just finished the second book, and it's like, oh man, I need a break.
It's deep.
Let me get to Dragon's Blade. Let me try that. So I really totally recommend Michael R. Miller if you haven't started reading his books. Killer so far. Solid. And then of course Mel Odom. I just read his book, The Rover. And I know, reading in the back of the book, I know he wrote a whole bunch of stuff for Wizards of the Coast and Forgotten Realms and all sorts of other things. So, he's legit.
Gotcha.
But The Rover, Mel Odom, and then, of course, Michael R. Miller, the Dragon's Blade trilogy.
You've been a great answerer of questions, man. You've got the answers. That's great. I love it, because some people are like, oh, man, let me think. You've got it.
Yeah.
Well, man, I good to go back to what you were closing with. Kind of the same back at you, man. Like, I get a hold of people that I am inspired by. I'm so thankful that you agreed to spend some time with me on my channel, because this is all inspiration and passion. That's what I get from this channel. It begins and ends with that for me. And I'm so happy to call you a friend and somebody that I'm going to speak with all the time. We'll keep in touch. And I just want to thank you once again for spending some time with us. Tell your wife thank you for letting me borrow you.
We'll do. Yeah, we were all running around doing dishes right before. Okay, it's time. Everybody cut dishes. Go find a quiet place.
Yeah, I carried my sons to bed right before we got on, so I get it, man. That's a beautiful thing. I love that we have that in common.
It's great. It's a wonderful life, bro.
Well, as long as it's okay with you, this won't be our last talk. And until next time, man, we'll keep in touch. And thanks you once again. And everybody who stopped by to talk with us and to view with us, and any of you that will view in the future, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, and, that's wonderful.
To all a good night.
Later, guys. Have a good one.
Later.